Welcome to Sara Gonzales Unfiltered. We are in Independence Day week, and I need to remind you guys now because it is likely that I will forget later that I am off starting on Wednesday for the rest of the week. And please don't complain to me. I try not to take a lot of time off, but I'm going to. All right, we're going to celebrate Independence Day. So just wanted to tell you guys, don't come asking me questions when this is not new on Wednesday. All right. So today we had these Supreme Court rulings, decisions drop. Obviously, the most important of which, or at least the one that people were awaiting, anticipating the most, was this Trump versus United States. And the Supreme Court ruled 6-3 that former President Donald Trump is immune from federal prosecution for official acts taken while in office, but of course, no immunity for unofficial acts. And I want to go ahead and welcome my guest here to discuss this. Obviously, it's Josh Hammer, host of America on Trial and senior counsel over at the Article 3 Project. Thank you so much for being here again, Josh. So I want you to kind of walk us through the nuts and the bolts of this particular ruling, and then I want to talk to you about what this means for Jack Smith's prosecution of Donald Trump.
Well, Sarah, look, it's always a pleasure to join you. I will come on as short notice and as frequent as I'm able to do so. So it's always a pleasure.
I feel like I want to call you like Sara Gonzales Unfiltered official legal analyst. Can I do that?
I am happy. In fact, I'm honored to have that title.
Okay,
Sarah.
Perfect. Sorry, keep going.
So look, this opinion today was honestly what I and many others predicted. I mean, this was a fairly easily foreseeable ruling. So put another way, neither Donald Trump nor Jack Smith got a complete and total absolute victory at the Supreme Court today. So Donald Trump's lawyers, at least in the briefing, they pared it back a little bit at oral argument, but at least in the briefing, they took the admittedly somewhat extreme position that there is full immunity for literally everything a president does, full stop, period, end of story in the presidency. That's what lawyers do. You take an extreme position, then you compromise in the middle. That's how it works. Right. And then Jack Smith took the exact opposite position, which is that there is no such thing as immunity, which is farcical and laughable and obviously not how it works. So those of us who have an idea how the law works. I mean, we predicted that they would say that some things get immunity and some things don't. It's honestly just common sense, Sarah. You honestly don't really even have to be much of a lawyer to make sense of this ruling today, which is kind of funny insofar as the three liberal ladies, basically had a heart attack up there because they were so apoplectic. But like I said, this is really not rocket science. I mean, core constitutional functions, so military, commander-in-chief clause, firing and hiring of personnel, whether you're hiring a Treasury Secretary or firing an Attorney General. This is bread and butter core constitutional activity for which there is absolute immunity. You cannot be prosecuted after the presidency. Then there's the second category, which I admittedly didn't necessarily see them doing, but it kind of makes sense, where you have some acts that are official acts, but they are not what the court says conclusive and preclusive to the president. So shared authority with the Congress, things like that. This is the interesting bucket, Sarah. This is the category where the court says you have a rebuttable presumption of immunity, meaning that you are presumed to have immunity, but it can be overcome by a powerful demonstration that it must be overcome in a particular case. And then there's the unofficial acts for which you obviously have no immunity. So that's the basic framework there. Like I said, it's a straightforward opinion, and it makes a lot of sense to me.
So then what happens now because now all of this is in play, who gets to determine what's an official act and what's not an official act? Tell us what happens now with, at least with Jack Smith's case.
Yeah, so this is going to go down to the lower court. It's going to go down to Judge Tanya Chutkan, who has a very unenviable task, which is trying to apply all of this brand new law that the court has now given us to the specific facts of this case. And, John Roberts, in his majority opinion, basically says, not my problem anymore. I mean, this is going to be a very difficult effort. You're going to have to go through like phone call by phone call and try to assess, in each specific conduct. Obviously, Donald Trump communicating with his cabinet, with the chief of staff, that is core constitutional activity. What about communicating with a private individual out in Arizona who might have been an elector? I don't know. I mean, it's going to be a close case sometimes. But when you combine this, Sarah, with the Fisher case on Friday, recall that in the Fisher case, where they interpreted the Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002 a little bit more narrowly so as to provide relief for a lot of J6ers. Two of Jack Smith's 4 charges in D.C. are on that exact provision. Yeah. So the combined effect of Fisher and Trump immunity today, it's a massive loss for Jack Smith. And he actually is going to have to overcome that rebuttable presumption, even on the charges that stand in the first place. If Judge Chutkan does her job, then she will toss the 2 charges that pertain to the law that they just narrowed in Fisher. And then even on the other 2 charges, again, he's going to have to overcome this presumption because the January 6th stuff, Sarah, under my read of the opinion today, is an official act because it's Trump communicating with his vice president. This gets a rebuttable presumption of immunity. Now, Jack Smith can theoretically overcome that, but it's going to be an uphill slog. And then even if the anti-Trump judge Chutkan does that and gives to Jack Smith, then Trump can just appeal that back to the D.C. Circuit. So long story short, nothing is happening really before November. That's kind of the long story short here.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's no way. And I'm glad that you pointed out, I want to get to these 2 other cases here, but I'm glad that you pointed out the anti-Trump judge, Tanya Chutkan, because she very much is that. And so I just never know what to expect in cases like these because you just have so much judicial activism these days that it's like, well, if she does her job, but isn't that a big if these days, Josh?
Yeah, no, look, it 100% is. I mean, she has been given a test. And if you are an outcome-oriented person, if you are trying to necessarily reach a conclusion whereby this is an official act, but he can still be prosecuted for it, then you will then reason your way backwards from the conclusion in order to try to justify and therefore give Jack Smith some way of proceeding. So that absolutely can happen. Now, again, if they rule against Donald Trump in the trial court, then he can appeal that right back to the D.C. Circuit where it's a random 3-judge panel. And then let's say hypothetically, then the panel rules against him as well. Let's say that they affirm the lower court, similar to what happened in the immunity context. Then Trump can then appeal it right back to the en banc, the full hearing on the D.C. Circuit, or get right back to the Supreme Court itself. So there's a lot of layers to this onion to peel back. Yeah. And the fact that the lower court judge is a very stinky type of onion is not necessarily going to spell doom for Donald Trump.
Yeah, you have to imagine if you're Jack Smith today, you're just like cursing or perhaps taking an early happy hour or something to blow off some steam because it just feels like everything is unraveling right before him. So I want to get to these other decisions, which I will admit sound far less sexy. OK, the headlines do not sound fun, but I want you to tell me why I'm told that they matter. Specifically, this North Dakota one, when you combine it in conjunction with the Chevron doctrine, that the Supreme Court has been delivering blows to federal regulations. So this is Corner Post Inc. versus Board of Governors. And this was a 6-3 ruling in favor of a North Dakota truck stop challenging a decade-old regulation on debit card swipe fees.
Yeah, look, I mean, I'll be very honest with you, Sarah. I mean, I don't think that this case is a whole lot sexier than you do, so I'll kind of be brief and to the point here. I mean, look, 6-3 opinion, classic kind of quote-unquote ideological split. But in the aftermath of the Chevron case on Friday, as well as a similar case that was 5-4 that came to the EPA's authority to regulate gas emissions over state lines, we've now seen 3 cases in a fairly short time period that is curtailing the power of the administrative state. Look, if there is one issue where the Roberts Court has been pretty consistently good on, at least for the past few terms, it's on rolling back the administrative state. And this opinion today is very much in that line.
Yeah, which is what we need since the Biden regime continues to creep, up and up, abusing their power here. Okay, so let's get to this last one then. This was Moody versus NetChoice and NetChoice versus Paxton. And this was entirely to do with the future of free speech on the internet. This one was 9-0, am I correct?
Yeah, so this was a frustrating result. This was frustrating. Admittedly, it could have been worse. So the oral argument in this case was something of a disaster. I mean, I was deeply depressed after oral argument. Unfortunately, Florida and Texas just weren't able to persuade a law justice during the argument there. And I feared that this case could actually come down by like a 7-2 loss on the merits. So look, the fact that it's a 9-0, they basically punted. It's essentially an elaborate punt. They didn't rule in favor of NetChoice. They didn't rule in favor of Texas and Florida. So the Texas and Florida social media rules, which essentially are modern forms of common carrier doctrine, these laws would treat the platforms as common carriers, and therefore they cannot discriminate on the basis of speech. I have been a vociferous proponent, advocate of these laws for years now. In fact, there in Texas, the Fifth Circuit, the court that I clerked on, in their opinion before the Supreme Court, it was a fantastic opinion by Judge Andy Oldham, September 2022, long history of common carrier doctrine. So in my view, that is correct. Now, the silver lining is that that view has not been overruled quite yet. The problem is that in the majority opinion that Elena Kagan delivered, there's a lot of troubling what lawyers call dicta, which is non-binding legal language, but language nonetheless that lower courts will apply. Alito goes out of his way in a concurring opinion to say, look, this language is there, but it's just that. It's just dicta. Like lower courts, you're not bound by that. So he's basically wink, wink, nudge, nudging to the lower courts there. So the die might have been cast. Like the prediction here is looking fairly ominous, but Florida and Texas do live to fight another day on these very important laws.
Okay. All right. Well, look, I always appreciate you, Josh, explaining this to me in a way that I can understand because I'm just saying better you than me reading through these Supreme Court, the actual decisions. I try to read through the opinion and I'm like, I don't know how people like Josh do this. It's like a completely different language you guys speak.
Well, fortunately, Sarah, I don't actually work as a lawyer full time anymore, so I get to do a lot more fun stuff in my time. But every so often, it's fun to peek back at the Supreme Court opinions as well.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you, Josh. You're the best. Come back soon.
You bet.
All right, thank you. So we got to go to break, and then we'll be back with more, including just the Biden campaign. Like, what do we do? What are we gonna do? Oh my gosh, are we dropping out? Who do we put in place of Joe? What is going on? We'll get into that, okay, when we return. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Birch Gold. So, speaking of how it's going in the country, have you checked on your 401k lately? Have you checked on, I don't know, you have an IRA laying around? Just take my advice. Don't check on it. I'm just kidding. But what you do need to do, in all seriousness, if you do have a 401k or an IRA that is just laying around, think about diversifying into gold and silver. You can do that with Birch Gold because things are not going great in this economy, and gold has historically been the best hedge against inflation, against a turbulent economy that you could possibly have. And so what Birch Gold can do for you is they can convert an IRA or a 401k that you've just already got sitting there into an IRA, into physical gold. You're not going to spend a penny out of pocket to do it. Okay, to learn more, text the word Sarah to 989898. They're going to send you a free, no obligation information kit on gold. So there's no reason to not do this. They're just going to explain it to you. I do business with Birch Gold. We have been very satisfied. I'm not a financial expert, but they are. Okay, so go talk to them. Free, no obligation kit. You can get that by texting the word Sarah to 989898. I want to welcome to the program two men who typically don't have any shortage of things to say. And that was before you threw in all the crazy things that are going on now. We have Stu Burguiere, host of Stu Does America, which you can find on BlazeTV, wherever you get your podcasts. And also make sure to tune into today's episode because I'm on it.
Yes. It's by far the best part of the show. I will say that.
Just thought I'd throw that in. Also joined by Jason Buttrill, chief researcher of the Glenn Beck program and avid Farm Bill reader.
I would like to just start the show off with a protest, because usually if you're sitting in this chair,
I know,
you get introduced first.
I know.
And, big wow, we have Stu on the show. Let's introduce him first.
I mean, the most interesting thing she had to say about you is that you read the Farm Bill.
That doesn't just yell party. I mean, come on.
I thought I'd switch it up a bit. Okay, so I want to give you guys a chance to give me your thoughts on you don't have to do all three of these Supreme Court rulings, but at least the bigger one. Well, I mean, I would say it's the bigger one. It's the one the one that everyone was waiting for. After we got this, I just talked to Josh Hammer, after we got this Fisher case, where potentially all of these obstruction charges for all these J6ers, I don't know what happens to them. It seems like they won't hold now. And then on top of that, you have this latest with Donald Trump having immunity for official acts of office. Now, what constitutes official and unofficial is, I guess, what is to be determined. But your thoughts, Jason? I'll go to you first, so you don't complain.
I would say that this was probably one of the bigger ones because it's one of the most anticipated. But I think it's also one of the most ridiculous. Yeah. The fact that we need this decision, because yes, the president has always had immunity for, official decisions that he would make. It's also the most ridiculous because of the freak out that's going on. Don't go to X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Just don't go there right now. You could be like me and make the mistake.
He tries to live his life that way.
That's good. I do. You could make the mistake like me of clicking on some of their insane, statements on there. And just to read through the comments, and now the algorithm has flooded my inbox with all of this stuff, or my feed. It is absolutely nuts. We're like, so the president can do whatever he wants. You can murder people. If you want to, and it's immune. Or if you read Sotomayor's insane dissent.
So let me. I've got some of that. I've got some of that. So let's go. Let me go through those really quick. So she said in her dissent, relying on little more than its own misguided wisdom about the need for bold and unhesitating action by the president, the court gives former President Trump all the immunity he asked for and more because our Constitution does not shield a former president from answering for criminal and treasonous acts. I dissent. The president of the United States is the most powerful person in the country and possibly the world. When he uses his official powers in any way, under the majority's reasoning, he now will be insulated from criminal prosecution, orders the Navy SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival, immune, organizes a military coup to hold on to power, immune, takes a bribe in exchange for a pardon, immune, 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 immune.
Okay, so is she that stupid? Or is she really trying to say the most insane things possible to incite people to violence?
Yes.
Because people will be incited to violence over this crap. Every time they throw a hissy fit, like the end of Roe v. Wade, the Dobbs decision, when they throw a hissy fit, people react accordingly out in the street. I'm starting to get nervous because they're saying even crazier stuff than that right now. But it's presumptive. Whatever is considered an official act for when the president, invokes immunity on this. It's also withholden to the law and the Constitution. Yeah. So no, he has never been able to go kill somebody or order SEAL Team 6 to do whatever the hell she's talking about. Wasn't able to do it before and still not able to do it now. Still not able to do it now. There's still a Constitution. There's still a law. And there's also this thing called impeachment, which the left loves to invoke every 30 days or so, depending on who's president at the time. This is absolutely ridiculous. But that's what millions of people right now on their side are listening to and believing right now, which is very dangerous.
Asks the question, is Sotomayor stupid? I've heard some of their oral arguments and the questions that she asks, and she may just be stupid.
She is an idiot.
I
mean, look, I don't say that about every liberal justice. I don't think that about Elena Kagan. I don't even think that about Ketanji Brown Jackson.
She doesn't know what a woman is, but
she doesn't know what a woman is, but I don't think she's an absolute moron. Right. Sotomayor is unique on the Supreme Court. She is adult, a giant, paperweight in a robe, right? That's who she is. She really is nothing. She is embarrassing to the court. She does this all the time. She, goes to the most hyperbolic nonsense. And she's just a straight check mark for whatever the left wants in the dumbest way possible. It's like if Keith Olbermann was on the Supreme Court. That's basically what you have here, which is really, really stupid and really, really embarrassing. The court itself here basically just, as you point out, Jason, pointed out kind of the obvious, which was, when you're doing your job, you're appointing an ambassador, you're doing your official duties, those things are going to be covered. You can't be charged for things that in relation to those items as long as they're constitutional. If you're doing something that is an unofficial act, then you can definitely be charged. You're not above the law. They said that in there. It was interesting the way they formatted it, which was, okay, official acts, you are immune. Unofficial acts, you're not immune. But the court rushed this through so quickly because they wanted to throw him in prison before the election that they didn't even bother to determine whether any of these actions were official or not. And by the way, we don't even have a process in place to determine it anyway. So throw it back to the courts. You guys figure it out. Obviously, the delays there are long past the election. The one potential thing, and I don't know if you got into this with Josh Hammer, but Andy McCarthy mentioned this, which is, in theory, this could cause him to limit Jack Smith to limit the charges against Trump and say, okay, all that stuff we're going to throw out. Let's go only after things we think are unofficial acts. And they did, when talking to Trump's attorneys, get them to basically admit that the quote unquote fake electors part of this was an unofficial act. It was an act to try to get himself reelected. His own attorneys kind of went along with that analysis. If they throw out all the other stuff, shrink this down to that one case, they might be able to get something done in the summer, according to Andy McCarthy, who really knows this stuff well. So I've seen nothing from Smith that makes me believe he's going to try to shrink these charges at all. He's made them way too big. He overcharged in the first place. He went for spectacle. And that has benefited Donald Trump. I mean, if they went really, really precise and narrow on some of these things, they might have been able to move it along fast enough to get it done before the election. But they tried to make it such a wide scope, such a, this tyranny and all these dumb, like over-the-top Sotomayor-esque charges, instead of just trying to keep it focused for stuff they could actually get convictions on. And I don't know that they could, but they at least would have a shot. I think, honestly, what happened today was this case is dead. I think probably Georgia's dead as well, at least as it is interesting to Americans, which means before the election, which leaves you only with the documents case, which seems to also be dead. So think about this, just where we were 6 months ago, Sarah, or a year ago, where it felt like a lot of these charges against Trump were total BS. Mm-hmm. However, it could be a major part of this election narrative, right? Like the fact that all these charges were coming, how is he going to navigate them? What would he get convicted of? Almost all of it seems like it's going to be a giant zilch, with the exception of the New York case, which was always the weakest one.
Which he could potentially be under house arrest for, though, right? I mean, July 11th, we find out what his sentencing is. But I mean, that's the irony of it all, is like the weakest one could be the one that does him in. I mean, he's already a convicted felon. By the way, go get your merch at sarahmerch.com. You can get your mug here. I'm voting for the convicted felon.
I've never seen him in those particular sunglasses, I will say. But they're not. I like him. I like it.
But wouldn't you like to see him in these particular sunglasses?
I'm surprised he's not selling them already, honestly.
Well, if he wants to point people to sarahmerch.com as well, he's more than welcome to. But we've got shirts. We've got a trucker's hat as well that we've added since then. So make sure. I just like to point that out when we talk about it. I'm just saying they like to use it as some sort of a convicted felon. Ew. No, just own it. Just co-opt their language and own it. You guys made him a felon. Cool. I'm still voting for him because your guy's half dead, which I do want to talk to you guys about. I don't know. How much time do we have, Control?
Take as long as you want.
Okay. Oh, hi. Hello. I wasn't sure if your mic was working. Okay. So then let's talk about what's going on the other side of things while all of these cases seem to be falling apart. Let's talk about the Biden campaign and whether or not it survives, I guess. I want to throw this off of you guys. So, Stu, I talked to you a little bit about this. I guess the campaign received like $30 million since the debate.
Been kind of a big fundraiser for them.
I don't feel like that's a smart investment. And I'm just wondering if you can help me make sense of that.
Well, they were all thinking about burning the currency. And then they were like, well, what if we donate it to Joe Biden instead? It will be worth even less. No, I mean, I do think there's some similarities to the lovely mug you have in front of you, which is when your candidate is getting beat up, there's a certain element of people who just want to kind of defend their guy, right? And like, Joe Biden is taking a beating.
But what if he's beating himself up?
Yes, he is doing that. And I mean, I think there's still a chance that Joe Biden is the nominee here, as crazy as it is after watching that debate. And he's going to need a lot more money. He might need more money than he needed before if he's going to be the nominee. And there is definitely still a chunk of the Democratic voters who think he should be. Look, he won the primary that they basically canceled. They didn't even allow. I mean, this would have been, and like this goes back to a frustrating position if you're a Democratic voter, right? If they would have allowed a primary, this moment likely happens against Gavin Newsom or against Gretchen Whitmer or against somebody else. And they know in advance. They don't have to believe all the lies of the media, which they seemingly bought hook, line, and sinker. So they go through, they have a primary debate. He looks really bad. Maybe he loses the primary. At least they have a chance to pick a different candidate. Now, these people have already voted for him. Like he won 99% of the delegates. Like it's only if he wants to step down. And that is a tough thing to do with a Biden, a guy who has since 1972 at least been dreaming about the presidency.
I can't wait to see that like campaign rally or speech where they just come out and say, for the defense of democracy, we are nullifying the primary. Just doesn't count. We're throwing it out, but it's for democracy. That is why.
Right. We're changing all these rules.
They did that.
I just saw, I think it was Bloomberg Business just reported that they're thinking about certifying early in July, just to shut down any question about it.
Oh my!
And I'm like, who is they?
Yeah.
Like, because there is a big portion of the left right now that doesn't consider themselves in with the they.
They is Jill Biden.
It's Eva Perón. Yeah, that's true. Or how? I was trying to think of a nickname for her, and Eva Perón was one.
Evil bitch.
What was Woodrow Wilson's wife's name? I can't remember.
I don't remember, but only you would think that would be a relative, a reference that everyone would be like, oh yeah, the Woodrow Wilson wife. That's a great nickname.
Well, I mean, she was one of her nicknames was second president or secret president.
Yeah.
She was the one that was
White House.
Ran the White House.
Yeah.
An unelected person.
Yeah, Glenn talks
Relative.
about how she would put a pen in his hand after the stroke and take his hand and sign the bills holding his hand. He couldn't do it himself. That's basically where we are now. What's fascinating about the campaign though is like they had to do it. I know I don't remember if they're thinking of doing it even earlier now to kind of get rid of these rumors, but they had to do it early because of a law in Ohio, which had a limit on they had to have an official nominee by a certain date. So they had to do it before the actual convention. They may be moving it up even earlier now. But some of these other state laws are really interesting. For example, Wisconsin has a rule that basically will not let them change who is on the ballot right now outside of death, right? So if they were to change for any reason other than death, they would lose the right to compete in Wisconsin. Nevada's another one where the ruling was you can change your nominee up until 5 p.m. on Friday, the one we just passed. So they had the debate. They had up till 5 p.m. the next day. It just happened to fall that way, the fourth Friday of the month. So now they're past that. The only ways they can change that are death or if someone is adjudicated mentally incompetent. Now, obviously, Biden could be adjudicated, but he's not going to show up to the court hearing to get that done, I don't think.
Right.
So,
and by the way, the Heritage Foundation has already said, like, we will sue if they try to do this. We will sue in all of these places where we can.
Yep. Georgia's a question. Texas is a question. South Carolina's a question. Some of those states might not matter. Georgia is 60 days, so they would still have some time to get that one done, a 60-day window before the election. Bottom line, though, is that, like, they are in real trouble if they just have to cede Nevada and Wisconsin. Like, the bottom line is it's most likely that they're going to keep this guy on the ballot. And we're going to go through some more of this on tomorrow's Stu Does America. But one of the subtle ways they could try to do this is essentially to leak to the media that Biden can't drop out because of all the rules, but he knows what's going on, and he will remove himself from office soon after the election and step out for Kamala Harris. If they can mention this to the media and let them carry that torch for them, even if Biden denies it, if they can say, well, he has to deny it, don't worry, it's really going to happen, it might convince enough Democratic voters to be like, all right, well, I don't like Kamala either, but maybe I can go with that. They can't lose their base, though. And they can't lose both of those states either.
Is that what a hell of a sales pitch that is.
No kidding.
Don't worry, he's going to run, but you know,
You're really
a couple months later,
somebody else.
This chick is stepping in. Yep. So all is good.
Oh my. Don't worry, it's just it's like the GIF where the dog is drinking the drink and it's just fire all around.
Oh yeah.
Don't worry, nothing to see here. This is fine. It's fine. It's just the country just decimated, just all the explosions right behind me. Don't worry, it's fine.
I think that, I mean, with all these
real quick,
all these measures to like keep him on the ballot, I hope he does too, because I think we keep better, right?
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, are you behind a lot of this? Because you stand to lose a lot of money.
I'm very concerned, including to Jason here, who's bet me.
Have you been talking with George Soros?
I have been talking to my mortgage agent. I'm looking for remortgaging because I bet too much money with both Glenn and Jason on the idea that Joe Biden will drop out and that Michelle Obama will be the ticket. I said Joe Biden's going to stay on. They both said he's going to drop out and Michelle is going to be the ticket. And for months, I was like, I got this thing won. And then that debate happened.
I don't think it's going to be Michelle, though. I really don't.
I don't either.
I don't think Big Mike is enjoying the lavish lifestyle at Martha's Vineyard. Why in the world would she be like, you know what? They're already calling the shots. Like, if it's me, I'm like, we're already in charge. Why do I have to go be the one that's physically there? Just put someone else in and I'll still tell you guys what to do. I'm just saying, if I were Big Mike, but...
Obama
I'm not.
basically said that in an interview. So
yeah, well,
exactly
okay. Well, all right. Well, that just goes to show how smart I am. Okay, I have more to play for you guys on this topic, but let's take a quick break. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Flying Ace Spirits. So Flying Ace Spirits, this is like a win-win for you guys. Okay, you can go buy their whiskey. It's awesome, and you drink a lot of it. Drink responsibly, whatever. But when you do that, you are also helping Folds of Honor provide life-changing scholarships to the spouses and children of America's fallen or disabled in combat. So they've been doing this for a very, very long time. They've awarded 51,000 scholarships, more than $200 million. And so Flying Ace Spirits is partnering with them to offer these scholarships. They're awarded quarterly, and they're helping offer 4 scholarships this year. So if you can, go scan the QR code that's right here. If you're watching this, scan the QR code and donate. But what I'm saying is just go buy their whiskey, because whenever you buy it, you're also going to be donating to Folds of Honor. It's a win-win. You're donating to a good cause and you're drinking whiskey. So what could possibly go wrong? Make sure you use promo code UNFILTERED. You'll get free shipping on every order. That is flyingacespirits.com, promo code UNFILTERED. So I want to play you guys Mika Brzezinski on Morning Joe. I think this was from this morning. She was like, "Look, I still believe in Joe Biden. I just think we just need an explanation for what we saw last week in the debates." Here's some of that.
So now, after Thursday's abysmal debate performance, President Biden finds himself at rock bottom again. It was bad. And again, a chorus of Biden doubters. My family and I, as you know, have known this man for decades, and his family as well. And yes, I know them personally. And I still believe in Joe Biden. I've learned that counting him out is always a mistake. And doing that now could be catastrophic for our country. Do there need to be changes? Yes. Managing him.
No.
Managing him?
To his schedule. Changes maybe even to those around him. I'll also say America needs an explanation from Joe Biden and reassurance that the other night was a one-time event and
it wasn't
not part of a larger problem.
Ma'am, have you been living the last 3.5 years? Were you alive the last campaign? We've already... What do you mean we need to make sure this isn't part of a larger problem? Sometimes I listen to this and I'm like, you can't, has she convinced herself of this? Do they lie so often on mainstream media that they just convince themselves of the lie? There's no possible way that she believes in what she's saying right now. None. She even makes the remark that it's just the other people's fault because they're not managing him. Like, why would a reasonable adult with all of his faculties need anybody to manage him? She's admitting in her statement that he needs people to make his decisions for him. And then she's like, we just need an explanation for this one-off. It's like, it just drives me bonkers. I just don't even know. Like, are you this evil? Are you this stupid? Or do you lie to yourself so often that you believe the lies? Like, what is it?
It's really interesting. And I think what we just watched, and I would also put the Van Jones commentary for right after the election, or right after the debate in the same category. The lies that you see are evidence that this movement is real. Because they could come out and be wise-ass snarky. That was terrible. What the hell went on there? Right. And be tough on him. the way they're talking is loving support. We love you.
Of their elderly grandfather with
Right.
dementia.
And that's the way you actually could convince him to leave this race. The way to get him to leave this race is to appeal to his ego, appeal to his sense of history. You've been fantastic. Everyone loves you. You have this incredible legacy. Don't mess it up. That's the way, as a friend, to appeal to Joe Biden to get him to drop out. If you're just tough on him and just calling him names, then most people, he's going to say, "Well, screw you. I'll do what I want." These are his friends saying this to him. So I think the movement is real. I do think that this isn't just a BS, oh gosh, they're panicking for a couple days thing. There are a lot of people who really do want him out. Look, she's an embarrassment. She's always been an embarrassment. And, she's on the show that 3 months ago was telling you he not only was Biden cogent, he's the best he's ever been.
Sharp as a tack.
Sharp as a tack, the best he's ever
So
been.
angering.
And the lies, there has to be accountability for the lies. It can't just be they get to just embrace what we've been saying for multiple years. And now we're all like, oh, okay, I'm glad they're on our side now. They have to be accountable for lying to us for year after year after year after year. We all saw this happening. The American people saw this happening. They just kept trying to lie their way out of it. And the scariest part about this, as far as people with children in this country, is that this was their best effort to hide it from us.
Yeah.
What you saw on Thursday night was hundreds of people with high salaries, with expertise in this area, doing everything they can to make him look good. That's what we just witnessed, and that's what that's what they came up with. It's terrifying.
At Camp
They're
David
incapable.
for like a week.
Oh my gosh. Did you guys read that Politico report? It came out the day of the debate.
Oh.
It came out that morning, and they talked about this kind of goes to maybe they need to look at his people. It was not his people's fault.
No.
They prepared him. If you read that article, it goes into they prepared him for every single question that he was going to be asked. How did he know all the
I was
questions?
about to say, but they said that they didn't leak the questions, Jason.
That's a conundrum.
Trust
It was a
CNN?
huge conundrum. I don't know. But yeah, so somehow he knew every single question they were going to ask. They talked about how they were prepping at Camp David, and his prep included an airplane hangar, which I guess was also out at Camp David, where they fully constructed the debate stage. I mean, almost like an exact replica.
Wow.
He stood up there and was grilled questions.
He could be comfortable.
From the moment. Exactly. Yeah. They did everything possible that they could do. Wow. I mean, it was like war planning.
Now they're like, I was over-prepared. Like, imagine you have to take the fall for this. Like, you're some aide. You worked really hard to prepare this guy, and now you have to take the fall for us. Look, he's 1,000 years old. He's 1,000 years old, and he's fading fast. And the difference of someone had clipped together clips of him from 2019 in his primary debates as he was going to win the nomination. And yeah, he looks old. Yeah, he looks a little slow. Yeah, he's slurring words here and there and making mistakes. But it is drastically different than what we're seeing now. I mean, it is. We all knew he was old and fading. Watching those two next to each other, you realize how. I'm not talking about going back to 2012 against Paul Ryan. I'm talking 2019, 2020. He has fallen off a cliff when it comes to his mental acuity.
That's saying a lot because in 2019, during those debates,
We were like, this guy's gone.
Yeah.
he literally was bleeding out of his eyes. Literally. He had blood coming out of his eyeball. And we were like, he's not going to make it to the election. And now here we are, and he comes out, and he's like, I thought when he first started talking, I was like, this is a setup. Like, are they setting us up for him getting removed? Like, this seems like
I wondered that too.
I mean,
What I wondered was, are his handlers so done with him that like they just were like, yeah, we'll take you to Camp David and prep you for a week, and they were just legitimately like, don't worry, Grandpa, you'll do great. Don't worry about it, and like not prepping him. I legitimately had that thought at a certain point because it's like it's hard to. We talked about this earlier, Stu. It's hard to like. You couldn't prep for how bad that was.
Okay, well,
I mean, it's hard to like really get it to sink in.
on the flip side, I mean, as far as like blaming his people, they were using some obvious talking points that have already been debunked.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of the first things he talked about was just inject some bleach into your arm. Okay, debunked.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
What was the
Very
other really big one?
Very fine people on
that
both
one.
sides.
That
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
I mean, they obviously saw that.
Right.
They knew the entire country saw that because it was blasted all over the place. And he leads with that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, huh?
Yeah.
That was strange. Look, you got to blame Joe Biden for this, right? Overall, I mean, it's his fault. But the one thing I will say was real malpractice was if you knew his voice was going to sound that way, you needed to get out in front of it and say he had a cold 2 or 3 days ago and build it up. He's on his deathbed. Everything you can do to make people expect the absolute worst. Mm-hmm. And then like you could get through most of the rest. If we all knew for 3 days leading up to that, he had strep throat and was really, really sick, but was just bouncing back and could do the debate, it would have been more excusable. We all expected him to come out and kind of sound normal, and then they 20 minutes after it started, they're like, he has a cold. It's like, you can't do that after.
It would have been a bonus. It would have been like kind of like evidence to his stamina.
Right.
Like he has been on his deathbed, but he's going to pull through and he's going to do it for you.
Right.
It would have been better.
Yeah.
But instead, was that in the middle of the debate? Like,
after the debate started,
I'm being told
25 minutes in, we're being told that there's a cold in play, and it's like, okay, guys, you can't do that. You need to like. And that should have been out there just from the sound of his voice, true or not. So that was, I think, that's the only thing. And again, like his communications team is led by Corinne Jean-Pierre. What do you think's going to happen? It's not going to go well.
Well, by the way, so when we got to take a break. When we come back, I do want to talk about his potential predecessor. But just so in case you guys missed it, Jill Biden is, instead of, like bringing her husband to the nursing home where he belongs, she's on the cover of Vogue magazine today wearing a $7,000 outfit, because nothing says I relate to you, America, like wearing a $7,000 power suit while the rest of us are just trying to, pay our grocery bills. So it's just, I know, it's disgusting.
We had a literal supermodel as first lady.
I know, and they never
got the cover of anything.
Never.
And now this liberal hag goes on Vogue.
I know.
That's crap.
That's Dr. Liberal Hag to you,
Sorry.
Jason.
Oh,
Yeah, it's really just despicable what she's doing, knowing that her husband is in the state that he is in. All right, we got to take a break. We'll be right back with Kamala. All right, last night, BET hosted an awards show, and during the show, they had this pre-recorded video that was paid for by the Biden-Harris campaign. This is Kamala Harris and Taraji Henson talking about abortion and SCOTUS. Watch.
No, Taraji. Now, you know I wouldn't do that, especially not to a fellow bison. The real, ain't you? You know. So what's on your mind?
Oh, Madam VP Harris, I'm worried about the election. Women's reproductive rights are on the line. Our Supreme Court is on the line. Our basic freedoms are being tested, Madam VP. I know you've been traveling across the country. What are you hearing?
Yeah, girl, I'm out here in these streets. And let me tell you, you're right, Taraji.
No.
There is so much at stake in this moment. The majority of us believe in freedom and equality.
Yeah, girl.
But these extremists,
Yeah,
as they
girl, I'll
say,
be out
they
here in
not
them
like
streets.
They not.
There's a full-on attack
not.
on our fundamental freedoms.
They
The
not
freedom
us.
to vote.
Yep.
The freedom to love who you love, the freedom to be safe from gun violence, the freedom for a woman to make decisions about her own body, not having her government tell her what to do.
the libertarians, they're here.
Right. Yeah, girl, I'll be out here in them streets. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, girl. This is like Hillary Clinton with the hot sauce, and it's just so cringe. And
This is
yet,
on BET.
Yeah.
This is how do they greenlight this? I would think that network would be insulted by this crap.
Right.
Like, who wrote that script?
Right. And that's not just like a get out the vote message. That's just like, hey, Republicans are terrible. Like that's not, it's like so political and awful. And the acting is just awful. And I don't know why they think that stuff helps. I don't think it does.
It's so pandering and it's so obvious.
So pandering and so obvious. But I will say this. I mentioned this, I think maybe with you, Sarah, on my show, but I'll quickly recount it. I went back and watched the hour of CNN coverage after the debate. And I wanted to watch the meltdown. I wanted to watch all of them panic and all that, see what they were saying. And they were all panicking. And about 45 minutes in, they go to Kamala Harris. And Kamala Harris comes on and she's typically terrible Kamala Harris. Like really that cheesy, the same thing you just saw on that video.
yeah, girl.
Yeah, girl. Like
Out
she
here in
just
them streets.
nonsensical, like just bad Kamala Harris. But I had just watched 90 minutes of Joe Biden. She's 1,000 times better. Like if she's the nominee, it will be more difficult for Donald Trump to win. I mean that sincerely. She's terrible. And yes, her numbers are worse. You can go find that stuff. But I think think of her getting this gig, She would get nonstop media adulation about the first black woman president ever. It would be nonstop. They would never re-air a word salad thing.
No.
None of that would be known. She would be the hero. And they would say he was a great president, got all these policies. She was there for all of them. But he got sick. What are you going to do? Yeah. She's here. It would be harder. I'm not saying he couldn't win. He probably would still win, right? I mean, how could you lose to Kamala Harris? But on balance, it would be more difficult if she just stepped in. And that is how bad Joe Biden is.
I was going to say all of that to say that's how low the bar is that Joe Biden has set. Not that
it's not that she's good.
Not that Stu's saying Kamala is impressive. She's very much
1,000 times 0.1 is still a really low number, right? Like she's 1,000 times better, but you're still very low.
Jason, we got like 30 seconds here.
What you just said just depressed me for the state of the country. The state of the country. I mean, you could build a meme book just off the crap that this woman has said, the stupid crap that she does.
But no one's going to hear it. Like, no one would hear it. They wouldn't cover it. Like, they would just hide it all. And it would be up to us, just like, on X, just retweeting and retweeting and retweeting. And every other platform would just, shadow ban us for doing it.
Right. Yeah, it is really depressing. Thanks a lot, Stu.
Yeah, Stu.
Really depressing, Stu. All right, we got to take a break. We'll be right back. I can't believe I'm going to relive this again. I had a very traumatizing experience this weekend. I found a scorpion in my shower, and this is how that went.
No. Oh, God. No, please. Oh, no. No. Oh, my. You.
Steven told me to kill it. By the way, he was not home, conveniently.
Smaller than a penny.
Oh, no, it wasn't. You can't tell how big it was.
I mean, it's not huge.
No.
It's the level of disrespect right now. Have you ever found a scorpion in your shower?
No, I have not.
Okay, well, so I'm trying to get it out from the corner because Steven said, just take my shoe.
Are you trying to water it?
I'm trying to
grow.
Move it.
Okay.
So I tried to hit it and I missed. What? Look how big it is in comparison to the shoe.
No, it's on your shoe.
It still looks really small to me. I don't know.
Well, if it bites you, do you die?
No.
I might.
You might.
Okay, and then I was like, is it? Okay.
Oh, my God.
Why are you still screaming? It's dead.
Because it's dead and it was traumatic. I need to go to therapy now.
Wait, what happens if you get bit by, what's the outcome of a scorpion bite?
It probably hurts really bad.
Okay.
That's terrifying to me.
I will say, if I just got into my shower, there was a scorpion in there, I would have been freaked out. I would have sounded a lot like you. So I can't beat up on you that much.
And then someone told me they travel in pairs.
So you have a new roommate?
I think someone's screwing with you on that one.
No, I just literally
have a lifetime soulmate. Is
burning
that
the house down now.
I did find a black widow spider in my garage. That was equally terrifying.
Okay, well, just so you know, those are smaller than scorpions. Thank you very much.
Not that bigger than that one.